book lovers and screen addicts. Welcome to episode 2. We are now on our second episode of Page to Screen and In Between.
I'm Staci, and I'm here with my partner in literary crime, Renee. We've been friends through thick and thin for over 20 years.
Yeah, it's really fascinating how we reconnected and we're really stronger than ever, which kind of is going to guide us into our first segment. It's what is fascinating us right now. Obsession, fascination. We kind of played around on what word we wanted to talk about, whether it's from the entertainment world, the health world, fashion world, really any world. We are going to talk about what is fascinating us right now.
Right. And it might be new, but it might be, that's not new. That's not new. So
let's jump in because Staci, I know that you have something that you really wanted to talk about. So let's just step right in and go for it.
Yeah. So what is fascinating me right now? I'm always reading a fiction and a nonfiction book at the same time. I always have that going. And my nonfiction book, is called The Body Already Knows. And it is by, so sorry, I have her. It's very hard to pronounce her name. So I have it written down. She's Nidhi Bhanshali Padya. Okay. And it's all about Ayurveda. She gives you 21 days to try different things.
Oh.
So it's like, it's not like, here, do this all and change your life, and all that. So a lot of it is about oiling, how you eat, the times of days you eat. So it's not necessarily a diet or anything like that, because I'm done. I've done all those. I'm done. This is more just a lifestyle. It's an ancient Indian lifestyle. If you can see, I'm very, very glowing, very shiny. I do a lot of the coconut oiling. So that's kind of what I'm into right now. And it's really kind of fun. It's, like I said, it's one little thing a day that's been fun for me. So
what would you say, because that is fascinating. I mean, I have been fascinated the last probably year, where I'm listening to different podcasts, everything from, like with Mel Robbins had the super ager doctor on talking about super agers. And then I was listening to Gabrielle Reese's podcast, and they were talking about, he was the carnivore doctor and sort of his decision on that. And I've been really struggling with gluten issues. And so I would say, or I would ask, I'm sure our, viewers, listeners are wondering the same. Yeah. What is your biggest takeaway? I know you're doing all this, you're oiling, you're trying the coconut oil. Yeah. What do you think is working? What do you think is not? Are you feeling better, or have you not had enough time into it?
I do feel better. I definitely feel like my skin definitely feels better. When you put that much oil on you, you have to do it. You have to be really calculated. Otherwise, there's like oil over on everything. So you have to really do it on a time of day that's going to be good for you. But I feel better. I too listen to so many different podcasts. Dr. Mark Hyman, Dr. Mindy Pelz, the overarching is not necessarily the anti-gluten, but the anti-processed foods, which throws gluten into it for sure. So I think mindfulness is a big thing of this. I eat sometimes as if it's my first meal and my last meal, I don't even taste it. It's just, I'm just eating. And so this is very, slowing down, putting my fork down, which I never did. I never put your fork down in between each bite. This is a big one.
I have to say, that's so funny, because I'm going to cut in here now, because it's my pet peeve with my husband. Yeah, he's not here right now. I think he's in the shower, so I can say this. And I don't know if it's because he was raised with boys and raised on a farm, but he's elbows on the table, leans into the trough and just scoops it in. Yeah. And I'm like, hello, you haven't looked up once. You don't look at me.
Right.
I was like, slow down. You're making me so anxious. Take a breath. And he's just
No,
Probably.
it might be a Midwestern thing. Maybe it's a Midwestern, the farmer, just like got to get in, got to get back out the field. I don't know. I never was in the field, but I don't know. But one of the points, which is so hilarious, empty your mouth before the next bite. And I'm like, oh yeah, don't take a bite if there's anything in your mouth. And I'm like,
oh my God, that is how my husband does it. It's like he gets a couple of bites, a couple of chews, and then goes the next bite. A couple of chews and goes the next bite. And he is the worst flatulism, and I swear it's because of the way he eats.
Yes. So I
love you, honey, wherever you are.
Yeah, we do. I mean, I think it just gets to be habit. We don't know about, so going to France with, I have a child that lives, in France, and the way they do their meals, is very long, very slow, very, it's about the community. It's an event. It's about the community. It's about the conversation. And it does make you slow down. I mean, because if you scarf everything down, then it's very uncomfortable to sit and watch everybody else eat. So you do have to kind of slow down, have your cheese, have your bread in between, really look at the meal. It is, you kind of celebrate who's made the meal, how it's made. But yeah, you kind of said that about France when you were there recently.
I did because, both of you and I were in France, not together, but separately very recently. Mm-hmm. And, and we were talking about, I don't know that I have a gluten allergy, but I do know when I eat a lot of processed food, especially cakes and bread and pastas, I don't feel good. I get a little head foggy. Yeah. But when I was in France, and especially Paris, I ate all kinds of pastries and bread, and I never had any issue. And I'm saying never, and I don't usually use that word. I don't like to use that word. Yeah. I just did not have any problems at all. And I do think there's something about the way the French cook, the way their gluten is different than ours. They don't process what we see as processed food. It's still all made from scratch. It's not, all this genetically engineered foods. Right. And so I feel like now that we're talking about France, and you have a connection in France as well, because doesn't your daughter live there now?
Yeah. She lives there. And it was funny. She asked us one night, we went to we were having dinner at her place, and she had been working. And so she said, I said, what can I do? Because we were on vacation. She said, well, can you go get the stuff for dinner? Well, here you go to one store and you get everything, right? Mm-hmm. There, I went to the cheese shop. I went to the bakery. I went to the butcher. I went to the wine. We went to the wine shop to get. So it's just all these individuals, but like the bakery, like they made it that day. Everything was made that day, that fresh. Right. So and then when we got desserts, we had to go, of course, and get pastries and got dessert. So you go to each individual shop and you get them, and it's just interesting because
there's a purity, I think, to the way that they, yes, again, it's the community and the events and just how they eat. And sort of talking about Paris and France sort of is going to help us segue into our next segment, which is really why we're here. Right. It's to talk about page to screen, those beautiful, messy, often controversial moments when our favorite books are translated into or take that leap to screen. Right. And that's really why we're here. And, so
like whether it's a faithful adaptation that like makes your bookish heart sing, or, a wild reimagining that has you throwing popcorn at the TV screen. We're going to explore it all, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. And no opinion is really wrong or right. There's no judgment in this zone. We're just here have fun.
That's right. And, we may or may not disagree on parts of the book or the way that the book is translated. Just kind of consider us your literary besties and who aren't afraid to disagree with each other and really who aren't afraid to disagree with, I'm going to say it, with the viewer. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We're just here to celebrate what works, dissect what doesn't, and maybe change a few minds along the way.
I love that. So grab your coffee, your tea, or whatever your fuel of choice is. Where is mine? I think that husband of mine took it again.
Okay.
For heartfelt discussion. And today, let's talk about, what are we talking about?
All the light we cannot see. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
I am too, because I really feel like the book and the screen were vastly similar and then vastly different. But let me just tell you a little bit about what All the Light We Cannot See is about.
Okay.
It's, first of all, it took, what's his name? Anthony Doerr. Yeah. It took him 10 years to write this book. And it shows in a good way. He did not rush this story. He really, the depth of research. I'm so used to reading a lot of these women written historical fiction. They come from romance, they're translating them, they're pivoting into historical fiction, and they just write these books in sometimes weeks, sometimes months, and you can just tell there's that lack of depth. But this book won the Pulitzer Prize, so well deserved. It was a instant New York Times bestseller, and it's about this blind girl and a French boy whose paths collide in occupied France. Yep, in Saint-Malo. And they're just trying to decide, and they're young, they're in their teens, early 20s, and they're just trying to survive the devastation of World War II.
Right. And one of the things that I said, like, it's a love story without romance.
Yes.
Because there's so many stories, love stories, a father-daughter love, the
brother-sister love, the sibling
love, the love of country that you feel from the resistance, love of freedom. Like, there's just so many love stories intertwined, but it's not romantic. It's not a romance at all. There's, especially in the book, there's really not a romance. And I loved that. I loved that, reading all of those different stories. I counted the relationships, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like there's 5 or 6 relationship stories that he interwove. It was great. So, yeah.
I will say, and again, I sometimes have to set my author hat off. I have to take that author hat off and enjoy this book as a reader. But one of the things about this book that really challenged me when I first made my switch from romance to historical fiction was there doesn't have to be a happy ending. You can have hopeful, but you don't have to have a happy ending. You don't have to have romance. As a matter of fact, I feel like these romances and throwing in a romance can sometimes, and I'm trying to think of this word because I don't mean to be dismissive, but I feel like it somewhat cheapens the depth of what these people are going through. I just don't know how easy it is to fall in love while you're trying to wonder where that next piece of bread is. I think you can have incredibly strong connections, but I feel like the way that this book really explores other relationships and what it means, the loyalty and the love that you give to one another, whether it be the blood, love from blood or love from building or, building connections. That's what inspired me to take that pivot and not focus on romance. And I've really, the book I'm writing right now could take me 5 years because I've just slowed way down and I'm digging deep into the research because I'm so inspired by how Doerr did this story. And let's talk about the radio. Radio is really what connects them. Yes. And even Goebbels, who was the propaganda, Nazi propaganda guy, the leader of the he said without radio, we would not have even been in the war, much less in his mind it was going to win them the war. And you see that in this book, how at the time there was no social media, there was no television. Movies were, once every month or so, if that.
Yeah.
And the way people connected was on this shortwave radio. And I loved, that 1310. And I loved that. And I really loved it in the book. I think even more.
Me too. The book explained how the resistance used the radio better than I think the series did.
Oh,
because absolutely. They really, it explained like how they were, there were a couple of scenes in the series that, kind of showed how they were doing it. But in the book, it really goes into detail how they're using it and it's code. It's all code and it's all, but yet the Nazis couldn't figure out how they were doing it.
Right. And yet Werner, let's talk about in the book. Let's talk about the book for a minute and Werner's character in the book and the way that Dewar, now remember this came out in 2014. I'm not sure he would have written the same book in 2025, much less have given this German so much sympathy on the page. I feel like, now it's such with canceling and black and white. I feel like I don't know that Werner would have been written the same way. Maybe really? I'm wrong. No. But the thing that I loved about Werner and his character, and I've always been fascinated with this because I'm fascinated with how did so many Germans fall for Hitler's propaganda and that nationalism that Hitler just played into their hearts. Yeah. And the way that Dewar did that was he took this orphan who had never belonged. He'd lost his parents very young. He didn't belong. The book really explores that. Yes. And when he gets into the elite military school, he now has a belonging. He belongs to something bigger than him. He talks about I think the screen talks about how the professor was his father, but I really feel like the fatherland was his father. And when he first arrives at the military school and he has this belonging deep, deep, deep in the back of his mind, he's thinking something's not right here, but he's also really loving that belonging. And when he's plucked out of the day-to-day part of the military and he's favored by, the teacher at the school and he's favored and he's given special treatment, you can see how he would want to work for the fatherland and want to be a part of that. It's not until he goes to the Eastern Front that he realizes how they have weaponized radio, the Nazis.
Right.
What had become his salvation is now he is an instrument of war. Right. And that wasn't ever the plan. And I think that he fell for it and he fell into it. I hate to use this word organically, but it wasn't really a choice. It was, oh, I belong. And I feel like, and then that poor Frederick, his friend, who wanted to belong because he wanted to impress his father and he wanted to belong and took all that brutally, he became the weakest link and he took the brutalization and the beat ups, if you will, because he too wanted to belong and couldn't face the devastation of being kicked out. Right. And I feel like that explained in so much show don't tell what it meant for these Germans and how they became so immersed in the national, for want of a better word, that the ideology of the Nazi party.
Yeah, that is an interesting. I guess I went a little more primal with it. A lot of the Nazi stories that we hear are more about the monsters, like the von Rumpel monsters, right?
Right.
This story, I feel like, just showed a side that was more human than monster and more about survival. Yeah. Just raw survival. He always had his sister in mind. Like, I have to do this in order to make things better for her. I have to do this to, like, he went and visited Frederick. You know, he had to, there was more of a human side of him. I did not take that he ever bought into the ideology. I didn't get that from it. I always took that what he was doing, and I think they did this a lot. They took the young boys, the orphans, and, you know, they weaponized them because they had nothing else.
They groomed them. They
groomed them, but and some fell for the ideology, of course. You know, some of them were like, yes, but I think a lot of, I think for Werner, it was raw survival. He knew he had a talent. He knew, you know, he had a gift. Somebody, you know, the Fraulein, the one that took care of them, you know, said he had a gift. He expanded on that gift and used it to literally just survive. And then when Marie came into the picture, his compassion overtook that any type of loyalty, because, you know, he would turn he protected her. And so his compassion showed through, which you don't see in a lot of the Nazi novels. You don't see.
They're evil. They're all evil.
They're just evil. They're just evil. Or if they do something nice for somebody, it's to gain something for themselves.
Right. And even von Rumpel, who was technically the villain.
Yes.
The thing about him was, and this is where a lot of authors, they just make Nazis bad. And they like, well, he's a Nazi, so of course I can make him be bad, and I can make him target people. The one thing that Dewar did really well, and this is, again, I'm putting my writer hat back on, is that he gave us a multi-layered villain. He had a very specific goal. His was about survival as well. He wanted to survive as well. His nastiness, his single focus, yes, it was selfish, but it was well drawn. We understood why he was going after what he was going after. Yeah. He had bought into the fable of the diamond. And I feel as though, while he was the hero of his own story. And he was, everything that he did was purposeful and to meet that goal and to survive. And I feel like you hated him, but you also understood him. And that's where I think so many authors are afraid to go. They don't want to go that deep. They don't want to show, like the Werner. And yes, I do think it was about survival, but I also do think originally it was about belonging. And my idea was that this was a great way for Dewar to show us that most of Germans didn't buy into the ideology, the average German. They just were either afraid or wanted survival, wanted to be on the right end of history, you know, and there were a lot of people in France that wanted to be on the right end of history. So they collaborated. You know, and I think as we look back on history, we're all about, I would have never collaborated. I would have never been a German, but we weren't trying to survive a war. We aren't. We're going in our comfortable home. And it's not that what they did was right, but understanding what they did, I think, is why we read books, and why, you know, to get that human piece of, you know, understanding why people do what they do. And I feel like in a book, we get that. We have the opportunity to really dig in and to understand why people are making choices. And I feel like the book really did that well. And you have pages to do it, but you also have the ability to get into their heads, which you can't do in the screen version. So so like von Rumpel, let's just stay on him for just a second. Yeah.
I didn't hate him in the book as much as I hated him on screen, which was very good casting, right? Yes. I mean, I couldn't stand him on the screen. Like, I hated him. Yep. I just couldn't stand it. But in the book, he was dying. I got it. He was literally going to save his life, like literally save his life. And like you said, he bought into the myth. Let's go back to the history. There's a quote in the book, Werner is talking to the one that the very first guy who takes him and trains him. He goes to his house.
Yeah,
right?
with the wife.
Okay.
Yeah, the wife with the smooth thigh or the smooth calf.
Yeah, he says, you know, the greatest lesson of history is that history is whatever the victors say it is. That's the lesson. Whoever wins, that's who decides the history. We act in our own self-interest. Of course we do. Name me a person or a nation who does not. The trick is figuring out where your interests are. And I'm like, that is pretty profound. When you go back and you look and you're like, yeah, what would it look like if Germany would have won? I mean, and you know, we were in France recently during D-Day.
Oh,
and the French love America. I mean, because they're like, we're French because of America. Because of yeah. And so they celebrate, they do reenactments, they do. I mean, it was fascinating to be there on D-Day because a lot of the French dress up in the American uniforms and carry American flags. I mean, they really celebrate that America, British, Canada, they all, you know, they kind of have their all their own sections of the beach, right? That they did, but they really celebrate.
Where they landed, Omaha, yep.
Yeah, and it's like we got to say, we decided the history. I mean, we got to say what it was, and this guy was on. They were on the wrong side of the history, which was, I just loved that quote in the book. So
yeah, and the celebration. There was very quiet behind doors celebration when America got into the war. They were very happy in France because they were already occupied,
right?
And they knew that was because, I mean, England was hanging on by dental floss. They were hanging on by a thread, and needed, you know, just the power, the tiger. You know, they pulled the tail of the tiger, and so so that's the part of it. So let's go to let's talk about Marie-Laure and her father and that relationship.
It was so cute. Yeah, it was
so sweet, so sweet. And I feel like the one thing so let's talk about the one thing the screen got right was that relationship when she was young with Mark Ruffalo. And I've never seen Mark Ruffalo in a role like that where I was like, okay, he's good.
Yeah.
Like
this casting was phenomenal.
Yes.
That little girl.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. She was so great. I mean,
so great. And he was great with her.
Yes.
And, you know, and then Aria, who was an unknown, and both actresses were blind. And how, I mean, I fell in love with that actress, Marie-Laure, because the actress just embraced her. And what amazing casting. And I guess I saw a little documentary. It took they were thousands of actresses that they looked into, and then they found her. And the director was like, oh, she's my Marie-Laure. That's all I need to do. And then they show, I think if you go on Netflix, they'll show, it's like a 10-minute little mini documentary. And when he tells her she got the part, and then it shows her, they're doing like the press kit and they're taking pictures of her, and he realizes she's never seen herself. And so she doesn't know how to, even as an actress, how to pose, what she looks like. And she was beautiful. What a beautiful girl. And the little girl was so cute. But back to Mark Ruffalo's character, I feel like the father was really more downplayed in the book. I feel like he came alive on the screen, and that was thanks to Mark Ruffalo. Yeah. And his relationship with her came to life, because I think in the book it was all about her.
And I think the uncle. Once they got to Saint Malo,
right?
Then, you know, and he was Mark Ruffalo went back and was or not Mark. The dad went back, but it was more about the uncle. And,
Etienne. Yeah. And of course it was wonderful that, you know, Hugh Laurie is an amazing actor as well. Like Etienne was so, I think the thing that they did in the screen version was all the characters were so lovable, you know, especially the French characters were so lovable. the relationships, they only had 4.5 hours to show the relationships. And when you think about that, the book, if you did it on audio version, regular speed, it was 16 hours. So there's no way you can take 16 hours, crunch it into 4. I mean, brilliant.
Yes.
So.
And that's why they left off the last bit of where are they now type, things. They left it off with the film, which that was a little, I don't know. I was like, oh, but also that last bit was pretty hard to read because it wasn't a happy ending tied in a bow. Yay, yay, yay. Everybody fell in love. Everybody's together. Everybody, it was like, it wasn't the happy ending that we get sometimes.
It was what I call a Pulitzer Prize ending.
Yes.
Devastation.
Yes.
Everywhere. And I feel like the screen was a cinematic ending. It was a Hollywood ending for a World War II story. And I feel like it gave us much more hope, depending on who you are. Whether or not, even like we talked about, there was no romance in the book. And in the screen version, they give it a little bit of romance at the end. They dance, they give a little kiss.
They kiss.
Yeah. And then I'll come back for you.
Yeah.
You will see me again.
Keep broadcasting and I'll come back. And yeah.
And no spoilers here, but the way that his ending is, all I'm going to say is prepare yourself.
Yeah.
Prepare yourself.
Because the filming, you said, so we looked this up this morning. It was filmed in Budapest, Saint-Malo, and then in a little village in the south of France that has the same type of square that would have been very reminiscent of a 1944 square in France. So they filmed it. But a lot of it was filmed in Saint-Malo, and we have friends that live in Saint-Malo. And so very interesting. We were visiting our friends and we just loved the city. You can visit this city fully in 3 days and see it's very small. It's a little fortified.
And it's a fortress city.
It's a fortress city, and that Fort National. Those are little islands out in the like the the bay there in the sea. That when the tide goes down, you can walk to them, but when the tide is up, it's washed over. So we walked out to those little islands. We were looking at all of it, and then we were at their house, and I saw this book, the cover, but it was in French. And I go, hey, and I had read the book like years earlier. And I said, I said, hey, is that All the Light We Cannot See? And he said, he was like, yes, it's filmed here in Saint-Malo. What? So I reread it and I'm like, oh my gosh, we've been there. Like it came to life because you can walk through Saint-Malo. And like, we went to the church every day. Our hotel was right across the street from the church. So we went every day and, prayed and lit candles. And, it was just it was so cool. And we did that all before we even knew that it was there. So if you ever go to France, I would say, try to get a day trip to Saint-Malo because it is fascinating. That city, it is fascinating. Don't go in the winter because everything closes.
So that's our travel history. Our travel spin for the moment. Go to Saint-Malo.
Go to Saint-Malo. Try to get a day trip to Saint-Malo or a couple of days in the summer, early fall. Because like I said, a lot of the places close up for the winter because there's just no tourists. It's not enough. But it is fascinating. It's a fascinating city to visit. So anyway, that's my little take on that one. But yeah.
Okay. So any last words? It's one of those books and one of those screen movies that we could be on here for 2.5 hours and still.
I know. I feel like there's so much, but
there's so much more. Okay, let's do this. Okay. Before we go to this or that, which is we're going to decide whether we liked the screen or the book.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's your takeaway. Like when you closed the book, when you turned off the TV, what did you learn or what was your takeaway?
I guess the humanity of the war came to life for me in both the book and the screen, more than it had in some, you know, and I've read a lot of World War II. I mean, one of my best friends writes World War II. So I've read a lot of World War II. I don't know who that is. Yeah. I do love, I don't know why it's like a fascination with World War II stories, but this story had a lot of humanity in it. Yeah. Just a lot of the relationships that made it be a little actually a little harder because you love the characters so much. So that's the takeaway that I had with both of them. What about you?
Yeah, I would say my takeaway as a reader, okay, first of all, the language and the word choice and just the writing was so beautiful.
Yes.
There were ways that verbs he used and nouns that he used that just one sentence brought an entire scene into my head. Yes. So the writing was beautiful. So that was one of as a writer, my takeaway. But just I would say my takeaway was similar to yours in terms of there was so many layers to every character, so much depth. Everybody was gray. Everybody was making choices, good or bad.
Yes.
For immediate reasons. Like there was a lot of reactionary, a lot of thought as well, just so many layers. And like we said, you know, even the villain had layers, many, many layers in the book. And I would say that much like you know, the humanity, but for me, it's my takeaway that I try and put in every one of my books is that you don't know what it is to walk in other people's shoes until you actually have to walk in other people's shoes. And we are such a judgmental world. And we're like, oh, all Nazis are bad. All French are good, or French are lazy, or French are this, and American soldiers are this. This book tells us, no, nobody is a stereotype. No. Everybody has a layer. Everybody has a reason. And whether it be a selfish reason, even those selfish reasons were dug deeper. And so I just feel like that was my takeaway, is that we cannot go into something and judge someone's behavior without fully understanding all of their life and their backstory and where it came from. And let's be a little slower to judge and a little more open to understanding why they're making the choices they're making.
And we are all about stories. You and I, we love stories. I mean, that was one of we wanted to call this podcast something about stories, but you know, it ended up
storytelling, story this, story that.
And that's what people are all about, is everybody has a story, and you can't judge somebody without knowing their story. You can't, well, I mean, you can't judge people, but you really need to,
without knowing, and if you don't know their story, you really can't do it. So it's all about story starts with character. Character is story. And all right. So here we go.
Which is fast. Okay. Am I going to go
for that?
I got to say Paige again. I love the interwoven, tangled, but organized way that he did it. I go for the Paige on this one. The screen is great for a good 4 series binge, but I got to go with Paige.
Okay, I'm going to agree with you.
Okay,
100% Paige, except here's my caveat.
Okay.
I preferred the Hollywood ending. I liked the hopeful ending.
Yeah.
I do feel like the Paige had a happy ending, and it's weird, or hopeful ending in a whole different way.
Right.
And I feel like if they were going, I feel like, yes, Paige, if we'd have gone to the epilogue of the book and shown that, I kept waiting when I was watching the credits that we would get to the epilogue of the book. Like we would get that, you know, like I think the Avengers and all those Marvel movies have spoiled us to wait to the end till you get like that little last clip.
Yeah.
But I had expected the
Like the
epilogue,
wedding, or they get married finally, or this happens.
to see Mari, to see Mari Claire, which I think is this. We can say this without. We see her as an old woman.
Yeah.
We know she lived. We see her as an old woman, and then we see her connecting. You know, that weird sort of reconnection that the screen tried to do with the sister, Werner's sister, and she comes back in the epilogue. So I do feel like the epilogue, yes, 100% page. Page. Great.
All right.
Our final segment. Here we are.
Well, every time we're going to leave with the last word. Something one of us has been thinking about since our previous episode. Oh, before we do that though, are we going to let's get our viewers to what we're going to do next in the next 2 weeks, right? We're going to go over Department Q. And the Keepers of the Lost Cause is the book that comes from. So that's what we're going to explore next time. And it is an 8-episode series, so you might want to get started watching, binging it, but it's fabulous. And
I mean, Matthew, you had me at Matthew Good.
I know, right? So we're going to be exploring that. I've read, started the book. So we're going to be exploring page to screen on that one. That's the little teaser for next time. But for this time, we're going to do the last word. So,
and we all want the last word, don't we? I mean, and last time it was me. Okay. So this time, this is going to be fun. It's your turn, Staci. Let's have the last word.
So the last word is, I do truly give my heartfelt congratulations to Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. I mean, I'm sorry. I feel like Taylor's one of our girls because she's the same age as our girls. Yeah. And we've grown up. I mean, they've grown up with her.
Yeah, they've been fans way back from
they go way back. And so I really do want that. Like, I want them to live happily ever after. I do too. I want that love story for them. I want it to be real. So congratulations. And I give you my blessings and prayers that it all works out, and it's just beautiful. So
I love that last word. I think they're an amazing couple, and like you said, please let it be real.
I know.
We really want it to be real.
I do.
And to go forever. Yes. And that they last forever. They're past the 2-year mark. Isn't that when a lot of the romance goes out, and then you start to like see each other for who they are. And so we're hoping that, we are praying.
Hollywood couples and famous couples can make it. You've got a lot of famous couples that have made it for a long, long time. So I think it can happen. And I think it's, so I'm rooting for them. And
yes. Well, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is our end of our 2nd episode. We're doing our best to try and work out those kinks. One thing we are going to do right now, we're just on YouTube and Facebook and Insta, but we are going to get either on Apple or Spotify or somewhere like that, just the audio. I'm learning as we go. So once I figure out how to also become an audio podcast, we are going to do that. We started the opposite way. We went screen first. We're doing the harder first. So yay us.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're awesome. So this has been such a thrill, and I can't wait till next time to explore the other ones. So
yay. All right. Let's see if I get the end right.
Okay.